Tonight on CBC Vancouver News.
This is a tragic incident.
A deadly building collapse at a construction site in North Vancouver. Also,
I just hope that people will be understanding that things may take a little longer and hopefully no one gets harassed.
they applaud the move, but how will already short-staffed restaurants manage vaccine monitoring too? And
it's disturbing video. Nobody deserves to be treated this way.
violent and unprovoked, a Vancouver homeless man left defenseless in a disturbing attack.
This is CBC Vancouver News.
Good evening. We begin tonight with a disturbing attack on a homeless man in Yaletown. It has Vancouver police searching for a suspect. The assault was all caught on video. Dan Burrett joins us live with more. Dan, police say it appears this whole thing was unprovoked. So what more do we know?
Anita, it happened on July 26th. Police say they have a lot of evidence, but they can't yet identify the suspect. So they're asking for your help. Some people may find part of this video disturbing. It's 1 a.m. on Hamilton Street between Nelson and Helmken. Police say a group of men believed to be in their 20s are arguing. Then an elderly man who is homeless walks by. You can see him there. They talk. The group appears to tell him to leave, and one of the men swings at him. He then kicks the homeless man who drops something. He tells him to go away. He then chases the victim. Camera moves a bit, knocks him to the ground, and repeatedly kicks him. You can hear him crying out here, and we have paused the video here. Another man later steps in to try to get the suspect to stop. Police have spoken with the victim and say, thankfully, he wasn't seriously hurt.
It's cowardly, it's heartless, it's heartbreaking to see somebody treated like this. People should not be treated this way, and we can do better as a community.
The suspect is believed to be a man in his 20s with an above-average build, medium skin tone, and he may have been wearing glasses. He also appears to be wearing a red jersey with the number 23 on it, possibly a Michael Jordan's Chicago Bulls jersey. Police are also asking Yaletown restaurants and business owners to see if they remember or have video of that suspect or any of the people he was with that night, July 26, around 1 a.m. Anita.
Just brutal, Dan. Thank you. To North Vancouver now, where there's been a deadly building collapse. The body trapped under the rubble and another person hurt and taken to hospital. It happened this morning at the Old Empire Theatres building. That's where we find our Susanna De Silva live tonight. Susanna, what is happening now?
Well, right now there's a large team here from Vancouver's heavy urban search and rescue team, and they are now working to try to stabilize the scene to be able to recover the body of that person that was killed. I'll just step out of the way and show you. They're actually working in that top corner there of the building. That is where the demolition had been underway when part of a floor collapsed, and that's where it killed the one worker, injuring another worker who was in some form of machine there. That worker has been taken to hospital, is in stable condition, but the search and rescue crew is there right now trying to assess the situation to see if it's safe enough for them to be able to go and recover that body. Now, I spoke to a witness who lives in the building just behind the alley. This is how he described the scene.
I saw the floor that was earlier existing. It was just collapsed. And there were a lot of ambulances, fire services, vehicles, and everything, paramedics, everything. The scene was created, and I came down immediately to check what happened, and I noticed a person was taken to the ambulance. And at that time, I was not sure if I was not aware if a tragic death had already happened. And I later learned from the news that a person died. Yeah, I think they're still just trying to recover the body yet. Yeah, I feel very sorry for that family. It's a very horrendous incident, I should say. Yeah.
Now, I spoke to another witness who had been watching the work happening just before and says that a member of the crew was on a machine that had a jackhammer at the end, and they're actually chipping away at one of those inside walls when the entire floor came down underneath them, and that is what caused the accident. We heard from the fire chief a short time ago, and he says that they expect they will be at least another couple of hours before they're able to stabilize that scene to be able to get in and recover the body.
Okay, so Susanna, how exactly did this building or part of it collapse?
Well, that is the question. Police have said a number of agencies are obviously going to be involved. WorkSafe BC is already here. They've had their cameras out, obviously taking pictures. Initially, the police are going to look into this, but obviously police saying this is a devastating situation.
This is a bit of a nightmare for anyone who works in this industry, who knows the risks that you can take when you are working on a site like this. So, but as I said, our serious crimes investigators will be taking this investigation forward. We'll be looking for answers to all of those questions.
And they say, of course, they will be looking to ensure nothing criminal happened. And then once they have done that, they will pass that on to agencies like WorkSafe BC. The coroner service also will be involved as they will try to get to the bottom to understanding exactly what happened in the demolition of this building. Anita?
Susanna De Silva live in North Vancouver tonight. Thank you. Starting in just a few weeks, restaurants will be among the many businesses that have to enforce BC's so-called vaccine passports. And while there are still very few details on how the whole system will work, the CBC's Michelle Gussoub tells us it's a move many in the industry say is needed and welcome.
Starting on September 13th, you'll need at least 1 dose of vaccine to enjoy a restaurant meal. And by October 24th, 2 doses. Many restaurants say it's the right move at the right time.
We agree with the fact that people have to get vaccinated and should get vaccinated, and this is a step that is going to make more people get vaccinated, hopefully.
But there are still questions like how an industry facing a massive labor shortage will be able to enforce the new rules.
We have between 100 and 200 people come through our doors every night. So to be checking that every night, I hope that we have the tools to make it an easy process in a time that we're already, very lean on staff.
Proof of vaccination will be available online for use on a smartphone, so you won't have to just rely on your paper vaccine card. And restaurants will be able to call for backup if someone isn't complying with the new rules.
And yes, we do expect that there may be a small group of people who are protesting against this, as they have for other measures along the way. But we, as it is a provincial health officer order, we do have the ability to support businesses with bylaw officers, with environmental health officers, and we'll be continuing to work with them to support businesses in doing this in a way that's effective.
Me personally, I've got no problem telling someone they can't come in if they don't have proof of vaccination. But yeah, I do feel for some of our peers that do have junior staff on the doors.
But Layton hopes that with the majority of the province vaccinated and keen to avoid another lockdown, compliance won't be a problem.
I just hope that people will be understanding that things may take a little longer, and hopefully no one gets harassed.
A hoop restaurants are more than willing to jump through if it means no more closures because of COVID. Michelle Gussoub, CBC News, Vancouver.
While many businesses hope vaccine passports will be a step in the right direction, the Kelowna Chamber of Commerce says 1/3 of its members are strongly opposed. And now the organization is calling on the province to delay the program's rollout.
We're in favor of trying to support businesses as best we can to minimize confusion, minimize conflict between businesses and customers. And the way to do that is to help businesses in their messaging and to prepare the public for what to expect when they come to these facilities that have no choice but to bar service to those who are unvaccinated.
The Chamber says businesses want to know how the program will be enforced and how the government will support them. The organization is also urging the province to explore alternatives to vaccination, such as rapid testing and proof of recent negative COVID-19 test. In a survey of its members' businesses, 57% rather, say they support a vaccine verification system, but slightly more have no plans to enforce it. BC's COVID-19 cases continue to trend high with almost 700 reported today, but there's been a big 2-day jump in vaccine registrations. This comes after the announcement of the BC vaccine card. On Monday, almost 9,000 people registered for a vaccine shot. That's a 175% increase in daily registrations. Yesterday, more than 10,000. That's up more than 200%.
Good news that we are seeing an increase in the uptake, and maybe some people just require that extra reminder that it's really urgent that people who are eligible to get the vaccine do so as soon as possible.
COVID modelers say they are still around 500,000 people in BC who have not yet been vaccinated. With just a few weeks left before students return to class, we're learning more tonight about Fraser Health data on the spread of COVID-19 within Surrey schools. A finding about cohorts, which are not in place this year.
When we looked at cohorting overall, or those learning groups, we didn't find that it was particularly important in terms of case and contact management.
Cohorts were not found to be especially useful in slowing the spread, particularly in schools that were so small they were effectively one large cohort. Overall, 90% of COVID cases present in schools were found to originate at home and not in the classroom. Cohorts are not coming back to BC schools in September, which has had some parents concerned. The week the U.S.-Canada border reopened for recreational American travelers, the number of people crossing went up almost 2 times the week before in BC. 79% more people entered the Pacific region on the week of August 9th, rising to almost 53,000. But it's still the second largest increase next to Ontario, up 54%, with almost 207,000 travelers. Canada-wide, however, the number of border crossings increased by 111% and doesn't include commercial traffic. It jumped from more than 103,000 the week before to almost 219,000. But these numbers are nowhere near the number of people who used to cross pre-COVID. 1.4 million entered the country on the same week of 2019. Questions are being raised tonight after a video posted online appears to show an RCMP officer telling a journalist to be silent while she tried to ask questions at the Fairy Creek logging blockade on Vancouver Island.
You are to be silent while doing your job, or you're gone. You are not to talk to us or engage with us.
The Canadian Association of Journalists says on Twitter it's waiting for more information about the video, but called the treatment of the reporter very concerning. RCMP say in a statement it cannot provide context to the officer's actions or on the video as it doesn't have enough information about the incident. Wildfire evacuees and people whose properties have been damaged by flames may soon have access to financial support from the province and the Red Cross. People whose homes have been structurally damaged will be eligible for $2,000. Those forced to evacuate the Lytton area will also be eligible for that total. And people under mandatory evacuation orders for longer than 10 consecutive days will be eligible for $1,200. People looking to apply can contact the Red Cross. The White Rock Lake fire is one of BC's most destructive. Crews are using favorable wind conditions today to fight back against that blaze. Planned ignitions are meant to control the fire by robbing it of fuel ahead of the live edge of the flames. It's a rare opportunity for crews to attack this fire as opposed to reacting to its movements. And Johanna is off. Amy Bell joins us this week, and I imagine it's because they've had a little bit of break in that hot weather.
Yeah, we've had cooler temperatures for many areas across the province, and tomorrow we will start to see a lot more precipitation, not necessarily around the White Rock Lake fire. Taking a look at the fire danger rating, though, with even just a couple of warmer and dry days, we've seen a lot more of that moderate orange and yellow for the, orange for the high moving in once again. So we'll just have to keep an eye on things. Tomorrow will be good. We'll see much cooler temperatures right across the province, and many areas will get some shower activity. So that is certainly great news. As we saw today, incredibly calm for most of the province. Winds were very low, and it was warm in a lot of areas, but that warmth will be being replaced by that cooler air. We've seen it bringing shower activity all day to the north and central coast, and as it makes its way inland overnight and then throughout the day tomorrow, that's when we'll start to see those more widespread showers. So certainly some more relief coming for those firefighting efforts. For us locally, for the next couple of days, it is going to be a big change. Today we got up to about 27 degrees, and tomorrow we'll just reach a high of 19, and we'll see those showers arriving a few in the morning tomorrow, and then later in the afternoon they really kick off. They'll continue overnight and early through into Friday morning, but then at this point we're looking forward to a really sunny and warm weekend.
Sounds good. Thanks, Amy.
You're welcome.
The 111th Fair at the Peony kicked off this weekend, and organizers are excited to bring back the old favorites and debut some brand new treats.
And we are so grateful to be able to bring back so many of our youth workers, new Canadians, and longtime employees, as well as our concessionaire family.
Carnival staples like mini donuts are getting a new twist by getting served on a 2-foot-tall tower. New to the fair this year is an all-plant-based concession, the Plant Butcher. And for the adventurous palate, the 2021 season is unveiling lobster mac and cheese and, yes, rainbow grilled cheese sandwiches. The Peony Fair runs until September 6th. Thanks for being with us tonight on CBC Vancouver News at 6. I'm your host, Anita Bathe. And if you're not already doing it, you can always watch our program live on our free app. That's CBC Gem. You can also catch us on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. Surrey, always a battleground in the federal election, and that's where Liberal leader Justin Trudeau spent his time campaigning today. What he's promising next. Thanks for staying with us during our commercial-free live stream. A graffiti-riddled wall in downtown Fredericton, New Brunswick, now tells some of the city's heritage in a new mural. The new art on the 100-meter wall along the walking trail next to the city's exhibition grounds was painted last week by 3 Halifax artists. Have a look.
We're doing a really large mural. The Fredericton Trails Coalition and the NBX put out a bid for this wall, and we were fortunate enough to get it, and we're really excited to be here. We are used to big walls, but this has to be one of the longest we've done. The idea was to have kind of historical representations of Fredericton set in the background, kind of monotone, and so you'll see like Town Hall, the train station. We got the big Clydesdale horses coming at the far end, we're working on right now. And then to have wildlife, specifically an eagle and blue heron. But yeah, I think we landed on a really strong mock-up, and the whole community seems to love it. People are dropping things off, making us cookies. Everybody's ringing their bells on their bikes, and yeah, it feels good.
The mural is shaping up beyond our expectations. When the artist submitted his concept, we had a good feeling about the kind of work that they were doing. We were looking for a company that could do a mural that could represent more street art because of the whole graffiti issue that we have along the walls here. And so we were really excited about the concept, representing horses, Indigenous culture, and then landmarks of the city of Fredericton. But when I got here and I started to see the work, amazing. I'm just beyond blown away.
And with the exhibition, you know, we're coming up to our bicentennial, and the exhibition has been literally part of the community for coming up to 200 years. And this mural isn't just a depiction of the exhibition, or it isn't just harness racing, it's the exhibition's role and involvement in the whole community. But the artists have been able to take that concept and turn it into a reality, and it really does. It shows what the exhibition has meant for generations and generations here in Fredericton, and it is more than just the exhibition grounds. It's about the role in the whole community and the people that have lived here for generations and how they've been impacted and affected by the exhibition, and the memories and that they've had years and years of coming to the fair. And we're excited. We've got the kind of the official unveiling scheduled for the opening day of the exhibition. So, I mean, it looks great now, but we can't wait to see it all finished.
It's day 11 of the federal election campaign. The Liberals and the NDP have been taking on big business that has made huge profits during the pandemic, while David Thurton reports the Conservatives were riding the campaign trail with therapy horses and alpacas.
Justin Trudeau taking on the big banks, which have posted large profits during the pandemic.
We're going to ask big financial institutions to pay a little back, to pay a little more, so that we can do more for you.
A little means a tax on the Bay Street giants, a 3 percentage point increase on all earnings over $1 billion.
You tightened your belt. And because you did that, because you sacrificed, because you saved, big banks got a windfall.
We're
never getting vaccinated, ever!
As the Prime Minister left, a group of anti-vax protesters pursued him. New Democrats rolled into Windsor, Ontario, talking about one of their mainstays, cell phone bills.
And this is something that Justin Trudeau promised he would do something about. He promised he would make things better.
With a view across the river to Detroit, not lost on anyone, how little Americans pay. Singh says he would take on the big three.
This is something fully within the federal government to do. We can cap the fees. We can save people money.
The Conservative leader and his wife in Hamilton and the surrounding area today. Cell phone bills weren't on the agenda, but there was a commitment to launch a new hotline.
Canada's Conservatives will implement a nationwide 3-digit suicide prevention hotline so that consistent help is available everywhere across the country.
O'Toole was at a counseling centre for his first campaign stop this week outside the Ottawa bubble. Its surroundings and animals usually play host to people suffering with anxiety, grief, and depression.
As Prime Minister, I will double the current federal commitment to the growth of health funding, making an additional $60 billion available for health and mental health over the next 10 years.
While his opponents were challenging the profits of the country's largest corporations, Erin O'Toole had a softer approach today, launching his mental health plan. David Thurton, CBC News, Ottawa.
And Green Party leader Annamie Paul continued her campaign in Toronto, calling for better pandemic preparedness.
We need to be better prepared when crisis strikes, and there is no question that the federal government has a critical role to play.
She promised the Green Party would build up pharmaceutical manufacturing, stockpile personal protective equipment, and redesign the long-term care system. Canada may have as little as 24 hours to wrap up evacuation efforts in Afghanistan. A government source tells CBC only a limited number of flights remain for Canada's military. But as Olivia Stefanovich reports, the feds promise they will continue to help the Afghan people.
There is more than 20,000 or 30,000 people out here.
Desperation outside the Kabul airport. An Afghan contractor with the Canadian Armed Forces tries to reach the gate with his 4 kids.
It's a disaster, it's a suicide to go there.
He can't make it, even with a Canadian visa in hand.
Our Canadian Armed Forces members are working with our allies, taking every opportunity they can in trying to bring people inside.
The defense minister says the Canadian military continues to work inside and outside the wire to get people to safety before the window closes. A federal government source says that could happen within the next 24 to 48 hours.
We would have liked to have stayed beyond the 31st deadline, but as you know, that this decision has been made by the Americans.
So far, the government says more than 2,700 people have been evacuated from Afghanistan, and more than 1,000 are already in Canada. But not everyone will escape.
It's like leaving their allies in the mouth of the line.
This Afghan, whose identity we're protecting for his own safety, worked as a contractor with the Canadian Armed Forces. He tried to reach the airport, but was beaten by the Taliban.
I'm just counting my days for my death.
We promised to have their backs, and now it looks like Canada's failed.
Opposition leaders continue to slam the government.
I would never abandon people as Mr. Trudeau has.
This advocate says a lack of coordination between Western agencies is adding to the chaos.
I'm pleading with the Canadian government
to not abandon these people.
But there will be people left behind. Canada, along with other G7 countries, says there will be discussions with the Taliban in the coming days about how to treat those people who still want to leave the country. Olivia Stefanovic, CBC News, Ottawa.
The UK is also grappling with how to get people out of Afghanistan. As Tessa Arcilia reports from London, there are concerns about security and logistics, with evacuation efforts running against the clock.
Now, with only a few days to go, the pace is picking up, but it seems that there really might not be enough time. The UK's Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab says it is unclear how many people will be left behind, but it seems that there will be people who won't be able to get on one of those flights.
It's clear that the troops will be withdrawn by the end of the month, and what we'll do is use every remaining hour and day to get our nationals, such as we can, the Afghans who worked for us, out. So we'll keep doing everything we can in whatever that remaining window is that we've got left.
Some Defense Ministry sources told the media here that they're looking at a 24 to 36 hour time frame. And the French have already said that they want to wrap things up by tomorrow, Thursday. And this is for the civilian evacuations. Now, from an operational logistical point of view, there is a practical reason for this.
If the United States leaves, we're gone. They're the only nation in the world that can run this airport and keep it open. And so from a pure capability point of view, we are underneath the umbrella of the United States to allow this air bridge to operate.
The U.S. President Joe Biden yesterday cited the possibility of terror attacks at the airport by a group they're calling ISIS-K. And this is the grounds for speeding up operations and for not extending that August 31st deadline. Every day they're on the ground is another day that they know ISIS-K is seeking to target the airport. Now, those security concerns have been repeated and echoed by military and defense sources to the media in the U.S. and here in the U.K. The Taliban had told the Afghan people in and around the airport to go home and to stop coming to the airport. But the Pentagon had said today that there are still around 10,000 people who are trying to get out. Tessa Arcilia, CBC News, London.
And for those people still stuck there, hope is giving way to fear about what could happen next. Stephen D'Souza spoke to some of those still trapped and to family members here in Canada, exhausting every option to get them out.
The crowds, a mass of confusion and desperation. The path to the airport crawling with Taliban. So after multiple attempts to leave, a Canadian stuck in Afghanistan is now laying low.
We are in hiding, we are keeping a low profile.
We're protecting his identity. He was visiting Afghanistan when the Taliban took over. He has approval from Canadian immigration, but getting to the designated meeting point has been impossible.
It's not safe. We waited for 8 hours almost in the sun, so it was a chaos. There was no crowd management at all, so there were lots of beating happening.
As hope of escape fades for those with papers, those not even eligible face an even darker future.
I feel totally alone, isolated and abandoned here.
We reached this man in Afghanistan. He worked for Canada as a translator for 3 months in 2008, then some international aid groups. Not enough to get approved, but enough to receive death threats from the Taliban. Canadian officials say they'll work with neighboring countries to try and help Afghans who make it out. But he says getting to the border by land is almost impossible.
Simply, I can say I'm waiting at home to come here. I'm waiting for Taliban to come to my home and kill me.
They have a serious danger.
Vancouver resident Zora Wise says a member of her family in Afghanistan is on a Taliban hit list. They're social and political activists, but have never worked for Canada. So she's cast her hope elsewhere.
Frankly speaking, my only hope is if Pakistan embassy helps.
Like so many fighting to get relatives out, it's taken a toll.
It's this is a situation when I feel guilty of even being here. Sometimes I feel like it was maybe better that I was in Afghanistan.
A heavy burden as she and so many watch the window for escape slam shut. Stephen D'Souza, CBC News, Toronto.
A new study says the efficacy of the COVID vaccine gets less in the months after the second dose. But do we really need that extra shot? That's next.
Canadian Airlines was trying to downplay reports today that it's up against the wall in its merger talks with Air Canada and may have to accept the first offer it gets. Reports suggested that Air Canada has already made that offer and that it amounts to a virtual takeover of Canadian's parent company, PWA. For the record, both airlines say talks are continuing, but analysts say a deal appears to be close and that Air Canada appears to have the upper hand. All this has Canadians' employees feeling especially vulnerable. Holly Doan reports.
Hell no, we won't go! Pilots, ticket agents, flight attendants, hundreds of Canadian Airlines employees marched in Vancouver and Calgary.
We are very willing to do, whatever it is that we can to keep this company alive and keep competition in Canada and give the public a choice in the matter.
But choices are few. Canadian needs a partner to survive, and Air Canada knows it.
This is a shotgun merger.
In Ottawa today, Liberal transportation critic John Manley said Air Canada is not looking for a partner. It's looking to swallow Canadian Airlines whole.
It seems to me to be a takeover rather than a merger, in the sense that clearly Canadian will be the subservient, the target company in an acquisition by Air Canada.
We're not talking about a takeover, we're talking about a merger.
Canadian Airlines representative Jack Lawless won't say if Air Canada has already made a firm offer, but he admits the future is uncertain.
Because we don't know what this new airline is going to look like or if we're going to have a deal, I really can't tell you what the impact is going to be on things like competition or employees or things like head office.
Merger or takeover, it makes no difference to travelers. But for employees, it could make all the difference.
In a takeover, you've got one company's management is going to succeed and continue to run the company, and they're likely to favor their employees over the acquired company's employees and their advertising agency over the other guy's advertising agency. So, it can be a little bit messier.
Even if the two airlines reach a friendly agreement, the industry's troubles are far from over. The new company would be saddled with a $4.5 billion debt and facing fierce global competition. And that, industry experts say, means that Canada's new national airline would likely still need an American partner just to survive. Holly Doan, CBC News, Calgary.
Here are some of the stories we're following tonight on CBC Vancouver News.
This is a tragic incident.
One person is dead after a building at a worksite in North Vancouver partially collapsed this morning. The body is trapped under the rubble and rescuers are having a hard time getting to the victim. Another person has been rescued and is in stable condition in hospital.
It's disturbing video. Nobody deserves to be treated this way.
Vancouver police have put out video of what the force is calling a violent and unprovoked attack on a homeless man. The footage was shot last month in Yaletown. One person out of a group of young men pushing the victim to the ground and kicking him several times. The suspect is believed to be in his 20s, an average build and medium skin tone, maybe wearing glasses. Well, 2 days after BC announced its so-called vaccine passport, there's been a 200% increase in the number of people registering to get a shot. Come September 13th, you'll need at least one dose to get into a concert, hockey game, or restaurant, among other things. There's new evidence tonight that COVID vaccines can lose effectiveness. It's from a study in the UK of so-called breakthrough infections. As Vicadopia explains, that is sparking a debate about booster shots.
When they were first approved, clinical trials suggested vaccines could defeat the coronavirus. But new data from the UK put that assumption to the test. With more than 1 million vaccinated people tracked, it's one of the largest real-life studies of how well vaccines protect against infection. It found for Pfizer, vaccine effectiveness dropped from 88% to 74%. AstraZeneca's protection slid from 77 to 67%. The study's authors conclude booster shots are now needed.
We can't just sit by and see the protectiveness slowly waning whilst cases are still high and chance of infection still high as well.
Missing from the UK data, how sick did those vaccinated people actually get? If they were mildly ill, booster shots may not be worth it. Last month, during the surge in cases in Los Angeles, the number of vaccinated people who also got sick did go up. But
the number of hospitalizations and the number of ICU admissions were tremendously less in the vaccinated people compared to the unvaccinated people, indicating that even though breakthrough infections happen, you're still protected from severe disease.
Nevertheless, the UK, US, and Israel are among those going ahead with booster shots, despite calls from the World Health Organization to hold off.
It's not conclusive in terms of its benefits.
In Canada, scientists are still weighing the need for boosters in older and immunocompromised people.
I don't think the level of waning that we're seeing in the average person, meaning, healthy adults, is at a point yet that would justify booster doses.
That means continued health measures for added protection. Vic Adopia, CBC News, Toronto.
Well, the pandemic has made reunions with loved ones all but impossible. After almost 2 years, the Alku-Atlee family was finally able to reunite. But that first moment back together wasn't quite what they expected.
We're excited about our journey because this is going to be the first international trip that we're going to take after 2 years of not seeing our family in Canada. We made it!
The pandemic has shown us that life changes, life is short. Our kids are growing up so fast.
I'll be meeting my daughter Claire, her husband, and the 3 children at the Vancouver airport.
Okay guys, yalla. Unfortunately, the kids have to quarantine for 14 days.
Dejectedly, we left the airport. We couldn't hug my mother.
I know, it's a hug.
No, we're not.
My name is Claire. I was born and raised in Vancouver.
I'm Sadi Alku-Atlee. I'm a creative director working for an advertising agency in Saudi Arabia. And I'm married to Claire.
I'm Brenda Hochachka, and I am a widow, and I live in Vancouver. What I miss the most about having the family close is hearing what they're thinking about and their opinions on things, because they're maturing so fast, and I haven't seen them since they left in August 2019, which I would never have anticipated when I said goodbye to them then.
One thing that I really love about spending time with my mom when she's older is that I just really enjoy her company.
And I want to go to Canada to see all of my friends, to see my grandma, because she's been alone for a long time.
I really want to see my grandmother because she kind of helped me develop in certain ways, especially my identity.
We're leaving at 2 a.m.
Tonight.
So tomorrow, technically, but tonight we're leaving to the airport.
We're leaving our compound, and these kids are really going to miss us.
Bye.
Bye. Assalamu alaikum.
Bye.
Are you excited?
Yes.
To go to Canada? We're gonna take Lufthansa and we're gonna spend 4 hours in Frankfurt, a layover. The next flight will be like 11 hours to Vancouver. Hey, we landed, guys.
The mountains of my childhood have been switched off.
Okay, this is filming.
Oh, why don't I start with, so things didn't go exactly as we had planned. We knew that there was a great possibility that the kids would have to quarantine because they're not vaccinated, even though they've already had COVID. So we arrive at the airport, present our papers, only to have her tell us they need to do a 14-day strict quarantine.
How many days in Canada? Any other countries besides
6 weeks.
No? Can you not film me filling this out, baby? I'm feeling really depressed right now.
We waved from a distance and we chit-chatted, but we were sort of sad.
No hugging.
So then we took a taxi to Whistler and we spent the next 2 weeks in quarantine.
Come on, look, you want to see Vancouver? Stop! Ah!
Yay, we can finally hug.
We were so happy in the end to finally be able to reunite with our family. And so here we are at Tofino, the West Coast Vancouver Island.
As much as it is about visiting family, it's also about reminding our kids where one of their homes is.
Are we gonna walk to the cliff
Now, those
tonight?
look just about perfect.
Day one of the Paralympics in Tokyo, and already Canada has some big wins. We'll show you some of the highlights next. And at 6:38, you are looking at a live shot at the somewhat busy beaches in Tofino. Rain on the way for the West Coast, and here as well. Amy has your weather forecast next.
It's a beautiful summer day here in Grey County. We're out looking for wild choke cherries today. Everything is blooming. You can see it's beautiful. The flowers are out and choke cherries are ripe and perfect for eating right now. My name's Sean Adler and I'm the chef and owner of the Flying Chestnut Kitchen in Eugenia and also the chef and owner of Powwow Cafe in Kensington Market. Choke cherries are a teeny little wild cherry. It's about 1/8 of the size of a traditional cherry and it has a big stone in it. But its flavor is fruity and acidic. They actually pucker your mouth, they're so dry. So usually you cook them in recipes with a fair amount of sugar or sweetener. So this is a choke cherry tree and I want to talk about identification. As you can see, the berries grow on the stalk falling down. They're not presented upwards. That's an important feature of a choke cherry. You can see the leaves are serrated. They're oval and serrated, and how they grow on the branch is alternating. They don't grow across from each other. You can see that there's all these horizontal notches on the bark. And something that's very popular with choke cherry trees is this, it's a disease and it's called black knot that grows on choke cherry trees. So like all these trees that are choke cherry, they all have black knot, and it's really helpful in identifying that these are in fact choke cherry trees. You basically don't see it on many trees at all, but almost every choke cherry tree has some black knot on it. So when harvesting choke cherries, like many wild edibles, you want to ensure that you're harvesting sustainably. We're not the only people on this earth, so leave some for the birds and the other animals. There are a lot of berries out there that are poisonous, so you want to bring a knowledgeable guide and positively identify that you're picking a choke cherry and make sure you have permission of the landowner from where you're foraging. They're really easy to pick, so you can pick a lot really quickly. You just run your hand along the stem, they pop off. One thing to be aware of when you're consuming choke cherries is the fact that the little pit inside actually contains cyanide. They're very hard to the tooth, so you won't be eating them, but just be aware not to eat them. This is how you make my choke cherry butter tarts. First, roll out homemade or store-bought pie crust. Lay the dough into a tart shell and use the plastic wrap to push the pastry into the corners. Trim the excess and crimp the edges. Prick the bottom with a fork and blind bake with pie weights. In a medium bowl, add your brown sugar, 35% cream, eggs, maple syrup, and melted butter. Whisk your filling. De-seed the choke cherries and discard the pits. Ladle your filling into your prepared tart shells and top with a heaping tablespoon of choke cherries. Next, bake your tarts at 375 degrees for 10 to 12 minutes. Serve your choke cherry butter tarts with whipped cream and enjoy.
A drought has triggered a fight over water at a man-made lake in Bolivia that's pitting farmers against tourist operators. Violence has erupted between the two sides and police have had to intervene. The lake was created in the 1940s to provide water for farms in the region. Since then, it has become a tourist attraction and provides jobs for tour boat operators, restaurants, and fishermen. Farmers are reported to be closing roads in an effort to get water released from the lake for their crops and cattle. The boat operators say lower water levels will hinder navigation in the lake, and elsewhere, warm and dry weather is behind an explosion of jellyfish at a beach in Crimea. The jellyfish aren't life-threatening for humans, but they are certainly off-putting for many residents and visitors. The animals are flourishing because there's not as much fresh water flowing from rivers to the sea, and the saltier seawater is perfect for the jellyfish population. The jellyfish have displaced tourists at the peninsula, with one saying she'd rather not get in the water and encounter their cold, disgusting touch. Well, Starbucks will once again let customers bring in reusable mugs. It's one step the coffee company is taking towards pre-pandemic life after they limited their servings to disposable cups last year. Cameron McIntosh explains how it'll work and how that idea is going over.
That one for the road, now littering it. Even when they make it to the garbage, paper takeout cups are a big waste burden.
I'm gonna see if they'll fill up my reusable cup.
In 2019, Brenya Green made this video of McDonald's rejecting a reusable cup. It went viral and helped pressure McDonald's Canada to promise to accept refillable beverage containers in 2020. Then the pandemic hit.
A lot of environmental things went on the back burner during COVID-19.
Research firm Euromonitor estimates that last year, 2020, Canadians consumed 4.6 billion cups of coffee from food service establishments. Three of the biggest, Starbucks, McDonald's, and Tim Hortons, didn't accept reusable containers that year. Tim Hortons, which accepted reusable cups pre-pandemic, says it's monitoring public health. McDonald's says the pandemic still has its reusable cup program on hold. But this week, Starbucks started again. Hand over a reusable container on a tray, they'll hand it back in a mug to reduce contact.
We have reimagined this from a very conservative, cautious approach for safety to a new way to do it and do it really well that offers extra layer of protection.
A mug is probably a very, very low risk object.
This expert says given the airborne nature of COVID, reusable coffee cups pose minimal threat.
We've learned very much that this disease is not driven by contact from person to person.
In the UK, McDonald's is piloting a reusable cup program where customers place a deposit. Some environmentalists would like to see that here.
It is okay to use reusable bags and reusable cups as long as you follow other, basic hygiene.
It feels almost like sometimes COVID-19 can be used as an excuse.
Meanwhile, those paper cups will just keep on pouring into the garbage. Cameron McIntosh, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Johanna is off this week. Amy Bell joins us now with the forecast. All right, Amy, I've got my warm jackets ready.
You might need it for the next couple of days. We're going to see a big shift for tomorrow. So today we got up to about 27 degrees and then we're dropping down to about 18 tomorrow. It could be marginally warmer on Friday and then we do start to rebound for the weekend. But yeah, tomorrow's going to be a big shock for most of the province because not only we will see these lower temperatures, we're going to be seeing showers for many areas. So quite the opposite of today. We did have the system arrive on the north coast much earlier and it's going to slowly make its way towards us and across the province. So we will see here those showers hitting early tomorrow morning. They'll really ramp up though in the afternoon and then we'll just continue to see that spread through the central interior. Where we really won't see much shower activity is in the very southeast corner of the province, and that's really where we could use it around sort of Kelowna and Cranbrook. They will see a chance of rain though on Friday, but definitely cooler temperatures right across the board. And then we see that next system sitting up on the very northwest corner of the province. That'll make its way in the next couple of days. So yeah, a complete 180 from what we saw yesterday and today. 17 degrees in Tofino, Comox at 18, 19 in Nanaimo, 16 up in Whistler, and 18 in Abbotsford, and they got up to almost 28 today, so that is just a big shift. And we will see those showers ramping up in the late afternoon, and that will really continue through into the evening. Friday morning, we will see some showers, and then we'll be left with clouds, but as I mentioned, at this point, we're looking good for the weekend. We'll see Dees Lake at 16, Prince Rupert as well, Port Hardy. Victoria, light showers in 16. And as I mentioned, we're still going to see sunshine for areas around Kelowna and Cranbrook, but we will see those lower temperatures. So that will certainly help with the fire situation. Winds will be very mild, if at all. So definitely a good chance for everybody. But 15 in Williams Lake. And we are really going to feel it. We'll see that shift overnight as we completely cloud over. We did see the clouds really roll in this afternoon, but we'll see those showers arriving tomorrow with a high of 19, dropping to 14 overnight. Much the same for Friday. And then we've got a pretty awesome weekend lined up with sunshine and temperatures once again in the low to mid 20s.
Well, someone who's always cold, 18 in Abbotsford, may as well be freezing.
Just get a big blanket.
Thanks, Amy.
You're welcome.
Lots of action on day one of competition at the Paralympics in Tokyo, and Canada is already beginning to wrap up medals. CBC's Devin Heroux is in Tokyo with more details on wins this country is racking up.
Day one complete here at the Tokyo 2020 Paralympics, and it was an outstanding start for the Canadians. 2 medals, 2 bronze medals on the opening day of competition. Keely Shaw from Mydale, Saskatchewan, winning the first medal for the country. She is competing in her first Paralympics, and she was in the C4 3,000 meter individual pursuit event, falling behind the Australian early in the race. But Shaw, she is known for her great finishes, surged across the finish line to capture bronze, her first Paralympic medal. And consider this, just 4 years ago she went to her first ever Cycling Canada national camp, and today she's on the podium on the largest athletic stage. To the Tokyo Aquatic Center now, a magical venue for the Canadians. Over the course of the Olympics, 6 medals, and it was Aurélie Rivard looking to add to her medal haul. She won 5 years ago in Rio, and she won bronze tonight in the S10 50-meter freestyle race. 6 medals now for Rivard, and she's got a lot more ahead here at the Games. We should also mention the Canadian women's wheelchair basketball team with a convincing 73-54 victory over Great Britain. They were trailing at the half. A powerful finish to the game. They're off and to a great start here at the Paralympics. Devin Heroux, CBC News, Tokyo.
A local fisherman is taking sustainability to the bottom of the ocean floor. Why prawns and sea cucumbers are a big part of his foraging menu. Next.
At a riding hall near Hamilton, Team Canada's Jody Schloss shows an effortless command of the horse she affectionately calls Lobbin. This week, the veteran rider takes on Tokyo in team and grade 1 individual dressage. Her passion for horses dates back to childhood. Well before a terrifying car accident at age 23, she suffered a serious brain injury, leaving her in a wheelchair and affecting her speech.
Especially with her voice. People don't see her. People don't see her as a capable person.
In the hospital, her brother Michael says it was Jody's love of horses that helped her heal.
The neurologist, the doctors, said to play her songs she was familiar with, and especially scents that she would find familiar and sort of to stimulate her brain.
And the owner of the barn.
And the owner of the barn. Came to the hospital. With horse tack.
otherwise known as equestrian equipment, reminding her of her love of the sport. Within 8 years of the accident, she was back on a horse, thanks to the Community Association for Riders with Disabilities.
And the physios. Her physio said they could tell when she had been riding. Because her core was so much stronger.
Strength that's evident to Michael.
It's just amazing to see her come here day after day, drive an hour here from home, 5 days a week, to come ride and to come improve her skills.
Coach Karis Van Essen says it's her tenacity that makes Jody one to watch in Tokyo.
She doesn't see any limitations. She doesn't let anything really stop her. She's very focused, very determined, and she's incredible in the way that she can really adapt.
In January, the Paralympian published a book of poetry and inspirational stories called From Anguish to Hope. She writes, "For I have seen the horses running, and they're in my blood like fire."
You're riding great, Joe.
The Toronto-bred rider hopes to trot and canter her way to a Paralympic medal for Canada. Jessica Ng, CBC News, Toronto.
Hi, I'm Amy Bell. Here's what's in your CBC Vancouver inbox.
Support sustainable agriculture and celebrate local food with Gloria Makarenko at Feast of Fields at Home. Learn more about the Gourmet Harvest Festival at farmfolkcityfolk.ca. And from September 2nd to 5th, enjoy free outdoor performances, a virtual art walk, exhibits, and more at the Fort Langley Jazz and Arts Festival. Go to fortlangleyjazzfest.com for more info.
A local spear fisherman and free diver is using seafood to pay homage to his Asian culture. Andrew Chin harvests prawns and hand-picks sea cucumbers right from our local waters. Here's a look at how he makes one of his favorite childhood recipes.
The feeling of being connected to the land and our oceans and living off what they provide has changed my view of food and our relationship with it. I'm Andrew, a freediver, spear fisherman, and second-generation Canadian. I didn't always feel proud of my ethnicity or my culture, and often tried to hide aspects of them to fit in. After spending most of my adult life outside Canada, I'm now learning how to express my culture and cuisine through the local ingredients our province has to offer. Today, we're heading out on our buddy Alex's boat, checking his prawn traps that he laid yesterday. And because they're so fresh and still alive, you can actually eat the tails raw. We'll also be jumping in the water, looking for some sea cucumber. Sea cucumber is a delicacy in many Asian cultures. They're available year-round in our waters and can be easily harvested by hand with a fishing net. It has a delicate flavor and tastes amazing with a simple batter and seasoning. While they may not look like much, I promise you'll love this easy recipe. So we've got our sea cucumber here all cut up and ready to go. This marinade is really easy. We're just gonna go in with our white pepper. Now this is gonna be the pepper of our salt and pepper sea cucumber. And then we're gonna go in with our salts to the same bowl. And then to that, we're gonna crack in 1 egg. And then we're just gonna give that a really nice mix. And now that that's all mixed up, we're just gonna go ahead in with our cornstarch. I'm just gonna create a marinade as well as a little bit of a thick batter to coat our sea cucumber with. And then we're gonna go into the hot oil for just about 3 to 5 minutes until they're nice and crispy. They've just been going for about 3 minutes, so now we're just gonna take them out of the oil. And we're just gonna place them onto some paper towel on a plate to let them drain. And then now we're just gonna fry the garlic and the chilies. We're just gonna fry those off really quickly in the hot oil. Now that our chili and garlic has fried up nicely, we're just gonna go in with all of our sea cucumber. And we're just gonna give that a nice toss. And top it off with all of that fried garlic and chili. Now that we're done with our sea cucumber, we're just gonna do our prawns that we caught earlier today really quickly. So we're gonna go ahead and do the tails raw, but you only wanna do this if your prawns are live. And then we're gonna deep fry the heads really lightly. So I'm just gonna take them and I'm gonna lightly dust them in cornstarch. This is gonna help us get a really crisp texture to the prawn head. And we're gonna let that go until it gets really nice and crispy. We have deep fried prawn heads, sashimi tails, and salt and pepper sea cucumber. Spin on a classic squid dish.
We're always ending our show with delicious food. I love it. That is it for our show tonight. Thanks so much for watching. Dan Bird is here at 11 o'clock with your next local news, and I'm back tomorrow. Same place, same time.